Welcome everyone to season 3 of Exes and Babies. I am super excited for this season. I know you're going to enjoy it. We're trying some new things. First one being, I'm the solo host, Sydney Swonigan, AKA the co-parent whisperer. I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about my story, the good, bad, and the ugly. And I'll be allowing folks to come from the community to also share, people who are co-parenting as well, or were co-parented, to talk about the good, the bad, and ugly of their co-parenting experiences, or again, being the child of co-parents. For today's episode, I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about myself so you can get to know me, because we're gonna be getting to know each other more in these solo episodes, just me, right, when I'm not interviewing folks. Also, just to continue to live through that authenticity. That's one of my values. That's one of Exes and Babies' values, is authenticity. So we'll be sharing, and by we, I mean me, I'll be sharing more about my story. And then also, again, we'll be doing some great interviews. So a little bit about me, your host. I am a Seattleite. I've been here my whole life, basically. I went to school in California, and I've traveled and lived in other countries for short stints of time. But I've been here. I love Seattle. This is where I raised my child with my co-parent. We have a lot of fun here in Seattle. Very progressive, which I personally love. And it's a great place to raise children. I truly believe that. Yes, it rains, but we make it through. I started this journey of co-parenting years ago. My son was 2 years old when we decided to split ways. It was not working for me. And I don't think he realized it. It wasn't working for him either. And so we decided to split. I wanted to do it in a way that didn't feel so icky. I have the audacity to think that I can have better outcomes than what I've seen ahead of me, right? What I've seen before me. And I had the audacity to, want better for myself by separating, but also believing that good could still happen, that the happy ending didn't end because I'm no longer in that relationship. And even before we broke up, I knew nothing about co-parenting or blended families. I didn't know those phrases. I just knew, I was like, hey, this isn't really working. We don't have to force this, but we could still be friends. Like, that was my way of saying, let's co-parent. Let's not be beefing and down each other's throats, right? And so that was our introduction to this world. And then I realized that there weren't a lot of resources on how to co-parent, but I was blessed to just have some good intuition around knowing how to work in a team. I played lacrosse for 8 years. I have worked in corporate spaces for a long time, and I knew what it looked like to be on a team, even when you're with someone who you don't maybe want to hang out with all the time. And so I knew how to do that. I knew how to be, get focused and focus on what matters. In that case is Dior, right? My son, who's 10 years old. Our focus was Dior. And that meant like swallowing our pride, getting rid of our ego where we can, right? We're still human. We are not perfect. And you'll get to hear a little bit more about that. But we started off really great. We, had rules about dating, who were you going to let into our kids' life, and mostly like at what point. Let's make sure, we agreed to make sure to not just bring anybody around and not too soon. I used to say, like, we're not going to bring people into our son's life unless we know we're getting married the next day. Now, hindsight 2020, I realize that's a little unrealistic, because some of the vetting process of dating someone is seeing how they get along with your child, how your child likes them and responds to them. And so, at least for me, that I value my child's perspective. And so that wasn't realistic to be like, oh, we're already going to get married and now I'm going to introduce you to my kid, right? It was like, and I was being facetious about getting married. But yeah, we had these rules and things in place. We actually had a podcast, 2 Exes and a Baby, that I produced, and he was on the podcast for my ex. And that was a lot of fun in some ways. But anyhow, we got to practice and talk about like our boundaries and how we want to navigate things that we weren't experiencing yet, trying to plan ahead as much as we could, which is me. I like to be a planner, but I realize I can't control things as much as I like to. I think I can control things through being nice and through being diplomatic, and that doesn't always work, right? We've found our groove. We definitely have hiccups though. And and that's something I didn't realize. I didn't realize that just because you've created this great foundation doesn't mean there's not going to be hiccups. And my wish is to help folks plan for hiccups as much as you can, but plan for knowing that something's going to happen. There's going to be shifts. There's going to be shifts in you. I have evolved. I have grown. So things that I tolerated in my relationship with my child's father, things I tolerated in the beginning of our co-parenting, I don't tolerate anymore because I'm no longer people pleasing as much. I'm no longer willing to enable or be a martyr, all those kinds of things, right? I'm no longer doing that. That doesn't serve me. I learned that outside of the co-parenting, but now I'm bringing that into the co-parenting. And that's a big shift for everyone because now it's like, hold on, what's changed? You've changed. It's like, yeah, that's because I'm healing. Anywho, so you could change. Your children will change. Like what they need will change, right? Every kid, doesn't even matter which kid, all kids are going to evolve. All kids are growing. They have their own challenges. So what's needed from us as parents, as well as co-parents, is going to shift. And so we can't always plan for the future, but we can have hopefully built a strong enough understanding and enough trust where when poop hits the fan, we can come together and we're evolving, hopefully, or we're changing, or the situation's changing. So we have to expect that just because something's going maybe not as great, it could go better. Or if something's going great, it might get worse or more challenging. And we can talk more about that and how to navigate that. Another thing I want to talk about today is, I know y'all been asking for a little bit more talk about the folks we love watching in the media. We see a lot of folks trying to navigate co-parenting, getting divorced, or not navigating it at all. And I think it can be a great example for what to do and what not to do. And so as much as it feels a little cringy for me to talk about celebrities, because one, I don't know these people. I don't know these people. They don't know me. So I think it's cringy. I don't like when the public tries to have these strong opinions about people they've never met. So I will try not to do that. But I also think that, maybe sometimes they're not the best examples. They might not be surrounded by folks who can support them. And so, I don't like to focus on celebrities. However, you've asked, and again, it can be a great learning opportunity. So one thing that came up more recently is some of us saw that Russell Wilson had made a post about his stepson, little Future, and how, it's his birthday. Happy birthday. It was a beautiful video, like a montage, like a bunch of little clips, right, coming together to make a reel. Very beautiful, lovely. The message was so beautiful. He's like, you're amazing. You're going to do amazing things. It's not verbatim at all, but that was the sentiment. And at the end, he's like, Daddy and Mommy love you so much, which, love that sentiment. But I can't help but, again, none of my business, but I can't help but wonder about that label, calling himself Daddy. And now, if that's what Little Future calls him, that's what they do in their household, that feels right for them, go for it. That's beautiful, and I love it for them. Also, it could be really challenging having little siblings that do call Russell Daddy, and you're like the only one who doesn't. That could be kind of confusing. And then also, sounds like Russell's been in his life for a long time. Like, he is dad. And I remember myself growing up, so I wasn't raised with my father, and he had brain damage from a car accident before I was born, months before I was born. And I remember when I got to meet him, we moved to Seattle. He's in Ohio. That's where I was born. And I got to meet him, fly back to Ohio every now and then. That was kind of my first introduction to not co-parenting, but my mom being willing to let me see my dad, right? But I got to meet him as an older person. I seen him as a baby, but obviously I don't remember that. And I remember him saying hey, I'm not your dad because I didn't raise you, but I am your father. And that was the first time I ever heard of these concepts. He's like, you come for me, and I know he loves me, and he's no longer with us, but I know he loved me, loves me, whatever you want to say there. But yeah, that's the first time he's I learned that concept of a father versus a dad. And so I see what Russell might be saying, because from what we can see, he's the one who's more consistently around with Little Future. But I also I hope that the energy behind calling himself Daddy, or Little Future calling him Daddy, isn't coming from a place of giving shade to Future. Because Future, we've witnessed him be very disrespectful to that household. saying F-U-C-K Russell in a song not even that long ago. Like, this co-parenting has been established for a long time, and he's still throwing like darts, if you will. But him saying things like that, he's spoken very rudely about Sierra, the mother of his child. And so, yes, he has acted out, and it sounds like he's not there as much as, like, let's say Russell is. However, I hope the energy of taking the daddy name isn't to negate or to take away from what Future does bring to the table. And again, we don't know all of what that is. However, little Future cannot exist without big Future. Like, little Future would not be here. And so as much as a father may have caused and continue to cause grief, may not be showing up in ways that you respect or want, it's just important to still respect the fact that they are that kid's father. Whatever, like the things that you love about that kid, some of that comes from their father. Even if it's not something that was nurtured in them, there's things that come from us that are our nature, that are in us regardless. I remember one time my mom said, it was kind of a flippant, not very kind thing. It wasn't coming from a kind place, but she's like, how can you be so much like someone who never raised you? And that was my first thought around, like, that was the first time I thought about, like, oh, like, I still exhibit things that come from my father, even though he did not raise me. And so I said to say, like, daddy, not daddy. I mean, he could have said, mommy, and I love you very much, but it felt like there's a little intentionality in saying daddy. And I just hope it's coming from a good place. But at the end of the day, and I hope he's not using this post about this beautiful boy to do a little jab back, because he has done little tasteful jabs back using social media, I believe. Like, once Russell did release that song that said F-U-C-K Russell, the next day, like, Russell posted a really nice video of him, like, playing with Little Future, and I don't even think they call him Little Future, but Little Future. And he's kind of like, I love spending all this time with you. It felt like a very, like, if we can call it a tasteful jab, that's what it felt like. So I don't think that's out of his realm of possibility to be jabbing. But again, not in their lives, but I think labels are really important. Like, I remember bringing this up with a friend, and they were like, well, I think that's fine. Like, if they're around, right, and they're doing what they're doing. I was like, yeah, but I would not tolerate some other woman calling themselves mommy to my son. I'm very much present, more than present. And even if I wasn't, mommy would be a strong one for me. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what the kids want, I think, as long as we're not, like, forcing something on them that doesn't feel right. And because it could make them feel like they have to pick and choose, even if they never were raised by the other parent, they might still feel something, some kind of connection or some kind of loyalty to them. So anyways, that's enough on that. The other thing I want to talk about is some of the episodes coming up. So we have episodes covering all walks of life and then some. I'm very excited. We have a mom in Florida who is an influencer who talks about her life as a single mom and has had a lot of great content that makes me laugh around divorce. So I can't wait for y'all to meet her if you don't already know her. And then also I have a mom who navigated co-parenting, challenging co-parenting, while caring for their child who was going through cancer treatment, which that story is, like, so touching. And I'm so grateful that she's willing to open up that part of her life with us. And then also we have a veteran father, Haitian American father, who has multiple things that he's needed to navigate in his co-parenting and grow and evolve around, which I love the accountability he takes. I think you're gonna really enjoy that episode as much as I did, just being in it in the interview, but seeing how he leverages therapy as a Black man in America, as an immigrant too. Like, he immigrated here, right? So coming here, valuing therapy, especially, as a veteran, is just, I'm in awe. I think we're just going to get a lot out of this. We've got couples, like co-parenting units coming together at the same time. I love when that happens. Please let me know if there's certain episodes and content that you're interested in. If you want me to bring on certain experts. We've had a family therapist in the past. We've had a collaborative divorce attorney. And so let me know if there's anything else you need, because we are here to serve you. Whatever you need, we gonna figure it out and we're gonna get it to you. That's what I'm excited to do, and that's what I will be doing. Now we're moving over to the Dear Co-Parent Whisperer segment of the podcast. I have gotten questions from y'all in the past and recently about what to do in certain co-parenting scenarios. So I'm going to answer some of those during these solo episodes. So a question I get a lot is around dating, which I get. That can be a really tough part of co-parenting, especially when you're just getting started. Usually when people are dating, it's probably a lot of time it's like fresh after the divorce or somewhat fresh. And so you're already still learning how to get over this person and how to get over this idea of this family that you thought you were going to have. And you're learning this autonomy and all this. You're learning so many things. You're watching your child have to navigate this and whatever feelings they have about the separation or divorce. And then on top of that, you're bringing other people into the world, into your family. Like that could be very challenging for you and for your child and for the other co-parent. And so having boundaries around that is so important. This is something we talk about every season because it just keeps coming up. And I keep learning more as I evolve in this space as a co-parent coach and as a co-parent. But as far as dating, it's important first to understand for you, let's say if you're the one dating, it's important for you to understand where you're at in this journey. Like, why are you dating? Do you have intentions around it? And what boundaries do you want to put in place for yourself? So for me, when I first started dating, I didn't know what I was doing because I was with my ex from the time we were official when I was 16, 17 years old and broke up when I was 27. So I didn't know anything about apps or dating and things like that. So I was new to the game. I wish I knew what kind of boundaries I should have put in place because I didn't know all the things that were possible out there. And so I was pretty bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, green eye, like just totally unaware of what I need to set in terms of boundaries. But for example, I'll get specific. At one point, and I thought this was fun, I actually enjoyed it, but I dated, whoever asked me out on a date, I would say yes. So I was on the apps, and if someone had the courage, because it feels like people are so intimidated and afraid at this day and age to like ask people out. At least that's been my experience. You know, if someone had the courage to ask, I'd be like, sure, why not? I want to see what's out there. I didn't have any crazy filters at that point. I was just curious about what was out there, and I also just like learning about humans. So it was fun for me. I felt like a little psychology major, like someone doing anthropologist, like studying humans in this habitat of dating. Anywho, because of that meant I had less time to do some of the things I need to do or do things that I wanted to do. I made sure to obviously manage my schedule, but I had sometimes 2 dates a day, and sometimes I was dating people going on dates with people who I was really not interested in. And sometimes I would be catfished. I got catfished quite a bit, actually. I was like, come on, guys. But because of that, because I didn't have boundaries and like discernment around dating, boundaries for myself around like, hey, maybe let's not say yes to everybody. Maybe we don't need to like study everyone. But now, of course, over time, I fine-tune my filter, if you will, of who I would spend time with, because I do have limited time. And even if I didn't, my time is precious to me. So yeah, came up with those boundaries. But yeah, be clear for yourself, like what are the boundaries? If you know you have a tendency to fall for narcissists or emotionally mature people because you've got some kind of childhood wound, maybe you need to like get some therapy first. That should be part of your dating, right? Get some therapy, have people vet the folks that you might eventually want to entertain bringing to your child if you're not really so great at that yet. But yeah, be really clear for you what you need to do and be honest without shame, without guilt. Like, this is where I'm at. This is what I need to learn. These are the boundaries I need to put up. This is why I'm out here. I'm out here to have a little fun, or I'm out here to find my next partner. Whatever it is, be clear on that and connect with yourself around that and keep checking in. Like, did I like that? Do I like that person? Is this working for me? Are they going to be a great influence for my child? Things like that. And then as far as your partner, your co-parent partner, and their dating, be clear about what boundaries you're trying to set with them or what requests you have with them when it comes to your child, and ask yourself, where is this coming from? Like, am I setting this boundary because I'm still not over them, or because I feel insecure and uncomfortable or jealous? Like, whatever it is, make sure you know what's driving that. Is it very child-centered? Because sometimes people mix them up. People mix in, parents will oftentimes do something in the best interest. They're doing something in the best interest of the child, but also it's really convoluted and like filled with a lot of selfish things. And so, and in the guise of, doing what's best for the child. And so make sure that you're really honest with yourself. Maybe talk with some trusted friends who will keep it real with you. If you don't have friends like that, get those. If you don't have family, community like that, get those. There's community here with Exes and Babies. Leverage us. So get clear on what's driving those, because sometimes we get in our own way, right? And then communicate that, and the why. Why are you wanting this boundary? Hey, don't introduce people to our child till we've dated them for like 6 months. Ask yourself, does it need to be that specific? Know that things change and things are fluid. Life is not so rigid. So you have to create some space for things to not be perfect, things to be messy. This is your guys' first time doing this, assumingly. And so leave yourself some space to make some mistakes, but try to shield your children as much as you can, because it can be confusing for them to see new people introduced immediately. Also, we've heard the horror stories of mom's new boyfriend, dad's new girlfriend, dad's new boyfriend. I'm trying to be, inclusive. But yeah, we've heard horror stories around folks being brought into a child's life that have no business being there. And so it's really important to be intentional about dating and what have you, and having conversations. And it's okay to make requests of your co-parent. Just know that you can't control them, and you gotta do it with respect, because they might not listen to you anyways, depending on who they are, but they really won't listen if you don't do it with respect. And so, yes. Thank you for listening. First solo episode here. Give me feedback. Please click like, subscribe, all the things, follow, share with your community. Let us know what you need from us so we can make sure we're making content that is the most beneficial it can be for you. Please stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter, because we have events, virtual and in person, for y'all to learn as well as connect. We have to connect as co-parents. It can be really lonely to be a co-parent. People don't always get it. And so it's important to just be in community so we can vent, so we can learn, so we can laugh, so we can play. And so our mission as Exes and Babies is to uplift and uplevel co-parents. We want to uplift you because you should not feel shame. You should not feel like a failure. You are not a failure. You are a normal human. So because your relationship did not last in the ways that maybe you anticipated, you are actually reflecting how this world works. There is always shift and changes in our world, our seasons, the climate change. So for better or worse, there's always change, things evolve. So to think that you would be any different from how this whole universe works is kind of bonkers. So do not feel shame. If there's things that you need to learn from, absolutely do that. If there's things you need to take accountability around, do that. Do that for the person that you might have wronged, but do that for you. When I take accountability, it's for the other person, but it's really for me to be able to sleep at night and for me to grow. If I don't take accountability, I can't grow. I can't become a better person. That is a priority to me. That's one of my values. Also, I know I can be in better relationships with my son, with my friends, with my family, things like that. So, whatever you need to do to heal and learn and grow from the ending of your relationship, do that. But let's get excited. I know. That might be a lot for people excited. I don't know. I like new beginnings. I like the challenge. I feel like our children, as co-parents, our children force us to be our best selves. We have to do things that feel unhuman sometimes, like smile and be cordial with someone that might have broke your heart for the sake of your child. And so we get an opportunity to show up and tap into parts of ourselves that we might have not known was possible. So, honor your feelings, whatever they are, but also you should feel a sense of pride that you're here and that you're figuring it out. If you're listening to this podcast, that's because you're trying to grow and learn. You're awesome. You're dope. Because you want to be a better co-parent, because you want to learn, because you want to be a better co-parent for yourself, for your co-parenting for your child, like you are so dope and you deserve to be uplifted. That's what I'm here to do, is uplift and up-level you. That's what Exes and Babies is here to do. So that's what we're gonna do. Thank you so much for joining us for this season, and stay tuned.